Hey everybody, I'm in the mobile office today on my lunch break, and I want to walk through the process of like a painting process in Procreate that I used for the illustration that was a potential t-shirt design for Cody Rhodes's Cody Rhodes's? Yeah, that works for me. Cody Rhodes' epic kind of symbolic smashing of the throne at All Elite Wrestling's Double or Nothing. Let me break down my layers real quick. I believe that this is a 14 by 16 or 16 by 14 by 16 canvas on Procreate. It's at 300 DPI. I think I have a max of 5 layers. So what I do is I create the background layer as a medium value. So it's the medium value, which is like, white up here and then black down here. It's going to be medium value. And then I use like a burnt sienna or like a reddish brown color as the background to start. I have found that using that when you're rendering like a painting, it gives your eye kind of something to grab onto that's not too bright, not too dark. And in terms of color, you can play off of that brown with warm or cool. And then when you switch out the brown, it's really safe. Kind of, you can translate that to any other background color, and it usually will be pretty cool. So that's kind of my process in terms of setting up. My layer system is a sketch, and then on top of the sketch, I will either do like inking lines to solidify that sketch, but in this particular illustration, I just start blocking in color. And I go from dark to light, and I use it's just a generic painting brush in Procreate. So as bottom of the barrel base mode as you can get, that's kind of where you want to be, so that you're going big to small shapes and just easy kind of transitioning up into your lighter shades. So get that medium ground color to begin, and then on top of that you get your sketch, and then on top of that you start rendering from darkest color to the lightest color, and you go slow if you have to, but this video is going to go fast. Okay, so this thing all started from an amazing reference picture that I found on Instagram from Y2 Jim Bob. He is a fantastic photographer for wrestling, for a lot of things, but for wrestling specifically for me, it is a wealth of beautiful imagery. So you should check him out. Procreate kind of goes a little too fast in its recording to really make a proper demo painting here. I would have to do it on Photoshop for that, but you can kind of just see the layering process here. And I go from real dark, see that real dark red in the skin tone, and I just start going kind of slowly up in value. And it really helps to know anatomy. Even if you have good reference photography, it really helps to know your anatomy, because knowing your anatomy, even when there's little spots in the photo where you can't really tell what's happening, you can use your drawing skills to kind of fake it, and then you know how the light is going to react on bone versus on muscle, and that's going to be really, really helpful when you're using any kind of reference photo. You can change the lighting, then you can change basically anything if you know your anatomy, if you know how light hits different shapes. Speaking of light, I am now giving this thing a secondary color source, light source with a color that's that light blue that wasn't in the initial photograph, just because I felt like it would give more of like a Frazetta kind of cool, interesting vibe to it. And so now I'm blocking out, checking my colors. It really helps to flip your canvas back and forth too, just to see if your proportions are correct and whatnot. And now I'm going to work into those skulls. I wanted each skull to feel different. And man, I decided that I was going to make the bottom masses there behind the throne, like just like a pile of human skulls. A little more symbolism into that equation there. And you can get things to read like they're sitting in the distance by either making them way lighter or keeping them way darker, depending on how the value structure is in your painting. Here, those smaller skulls in the bottom of the painting are going to look better if they're a little darker. They don't have as bright a highlight as those ones up top. It all serves to kind of emphasize the focal point, which is right in the center of the image. And then I knew that eventually I was going to work lettering into this, and I didn't want there to be all these competing focal points. At this point, I started thinking, like, how can I get this thing to feel a little bit more detailed? I just want to have it come out a little bit closer to what my cartooning stuff looks like. So I started kind of gently nudging in a darker line to accentuate some of the parts of the body that were, coming forward, and then recessing certain things that were coming back. That's where line starts coming back into this whole thing. And before that, I was just working in big patches of color and value. And that's kind of normal for a painting. You kind of wait until the end to start doing those real fine details. And at the very end, it starts really coming into focus. And that's fun. Oh, that little skull that I'm doing on the left side, I decided to cut his jaw off because it just didn't fit right in the end. Now again, you can tell I'm working with like a medium tone gray in the background, but you can see that this thing works a lot better when the gray comes out and it's just black behind. It's built for a black background. I saw this as a t-shirt design on a black t-shirt. So I wanted everything to be really low-key lighting and then have these little pops of color with the secondary light source, and everything else is like, there's no real white in this whole thing. So here comes that secondary light source, and you can see it drops into black, and then I just liked how that ended up looking. Yeah, so the rest of this thing is just fine detail, cutting in some shadows, cutting in some detail lines, all the stuff that you kind of bypass as you're working on the major issues in the painting, and you start getting those fine details and things start falling together. Well, that was it. For how long it took to paint the thing, it sure does go really quick. Anyway, have a good day. Bye. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what else you want me to paint. All those things. It all works for me.